Glad you could be with us on the USA Cable Network. Al Trautwig along with Kyle Rowe Jr. Keith Van Aaron wearing 00 will be in the nets tonight. A native New Yorker who has responded well to some pressure games this year with a goals against average of 4.07. Van Aaron makes some spectacular saves just when you think the ball's going to go into the net.
And he is backed up admirably by Sepp Gottenheimer, who was last year's starting goalkeeper pretty much all year long for Baltimore, but this year has been relegated somewhat to a backup position. So Kenny Cooper has two all-star goalkeepers in his Cooper's Troopers. And on the other end, we're going to have Victor Petroni, who will be starting tonight in place of Enzo DePayday, who has spent a lot of time. That's another look at Van Aaron. DePayday, who is injured, did not even suit up tonight. So interestingly, if there is a problem for Petroni, as the game goes on, Petroni with the goals against average of 5.61 has only appeared in 9 games this year. Perhaps Val de Sousa, or I shouldn't say Val de Sousa, but it may be Val de Sousa who will go into his place in goal and don that goalkeeper's jersey. That's just speculation on my part and has not been confirmed by Pat McBride, the coach of Kansas City.
As we've said, there's another big crowd on hand here at Kemper. The Kansas City Comets are averaging just short of 11,000. Victor Petroni is a young 22-year-old Canadian. And all of a sudden, he's thrown into a pressure situation as Kansas City tries to make the charge to the playoffs. And the crowd here is responding. After a laser, loud music introduction, they always seem to be hot at the beginning. Baltimore starts it off wearing white with red and yellow trim. Running in for them is Mike Stankovic. He hammers one off the board.
Incredible. 8 seconds into the game, and Mike Stankovic, who was MVP for 2 earlier teams, both in Dallas and Memphis, comes from his center defensive position and plays a quick 1-2, and with that great acceleration, also Stankovic, in this situation, just really coming right off an injury. Stankovic, who's had bad ligament damage to his ankle, shows no signs of that continuing, as the quick penetration of that Kansas City defense has stilled this crowd.
That's one way to keep the crowd quiet. Barrelett up. Back for Barrelett with a minute left to go.
Ball being held as Baltimore tries to get fresh players on. Here's Barrelett in that breakaway speed. He gets tripped in the corner by Joe Fila.
And a 2-minute penalty is called by the referee. That's one of the things Barrelett will do. Not only will he make great passes and set up great goals, but he'll cause problems for the opposing team's defensive unit trying to cover up for his speed and tact and vision.
And again, an unexpected attack by Baltimore as they were in the process of changing players, but Barrelett saw the opening and sprinted ahead. I think no more than just trying to gain good field position, but in the process was tripped by Fila. So we'll have an unusual situation now by Baltimore. They're going to put one of their players in a goalkeeper's jersey. They'll have 6 players, even though they're ahead 1-0. We've got Wirtz. Heinz Wirtz is going in as another field player. Very unusual. The first time I've ever seen it in the MISL, where a team ahead will put a field player in the goalkeeper's uniform. They're trying to take advantage.
Kyle, this is something that Kenny Cooper has spoken about. He's trying to add a little bit of strategy to his particular game, and he thinks he's developed 2 great field players who can play the nets in Heinz Wirtz and John Collins. So now Baltimore with a 2-man advantage, with Joe Fila in the box for Kansas City. Here's Crossley. Inside, Ercole, shot is deflected, and Petroni makes the save. Now Wirtz has to race to get back in the net. It's thrown out to the midfield line and headed down by Ercole. Here's Mangione. Now in a similar situation, Keith Van Aaron, the goalkeeper of Baltimore, scored a goal by throwing it just short of the 3rd line and putting it into the net. He was the first goalkeeper to score in the MISL. But right now he's on the bench. Heinz Wirtz is the designated goalkeeper for Baltimore. 1:15 left to go in their man advantage. Peter Barrelett on Len Salvamini. And the buzzer sounds, ending the first quarter of play here at Kemper with 1:09 left to go, and the penalty to Joe Fila. So we're 1/4 of the way through this game. At the end of the first quarter, the score, the Baltimore Blast 1 and the Kansas City Comets 0. You're watching Friday night MISL soccer on the USA Cable Network.
And open in the middle, Paul Crossley, the elderly but aggressive Baltimore player. As the Comets try to streak into the attack again, Well, with that, there's a break in the action, and we'll be back with more MISL action after this word from your local cable system.
The time for a 24-hour news network is now. National news, international news, the events that shape our lives. CNN helps its viewership anticipate tomorrow's headlines and feel more in touch with what's happening today, with an incredible diversity to the news available to its viewers. And sports fans find the professional team of CNN, all bringing you the latest from the sports world.
Get all the news from the stocks to the scores 24 hours a day on GE Cablevision, Channel 2, the cable news network.
And we're back, according to our producer, to the world's largest disco, Gary Dubin. As the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Mike Stankovic, solid defensive player for Baltimore, gets the ball away from Yilmaz Orhan of Kansas City. And Barilich is open as Stankovic has got Polahan to his left. He gets the ball to him. A little bit too fancy for himself. As Gino Ferrati clears the ball, he's got Petrovic on the far side. Orhan should take the ball inside as he tries to. And the shot blocked by McAvan. And Barilich with the clearance. Good save by Pila. Back to D'Souza, who was about to go off the field. Now he gets his chance as Rose comes back on for Kansas City. And Gino Giraldi waiting for someone up front for Kansas City to make a move. Finally, Carl Rose from his defensive position penetrates into the corner. Looking to pass. As Crosley with the kick save. Rose has got goalkeeper Van Aaron out. As play degenerates into a kickoff in the corner. Kick in for Kansas City. Kyle, this Kansas City team seems to play with a lot of heart. They seem to have a lot of skill. Maybe if they can play a few more games like this, they can get in this playoff race. Played an awful lot of one-goal games, as now Joey Fink is the lone attacker for Baltimore, going against four defenders for Kansas City. He wheels and tries to maintain control, gets it inside to Danny Counts. He's there. Over to Crosley, the goal.
Very simple. Find the open man. A theme which many teams have taken to the championship. Even Joey Fink, this team's leading scorer. When he's not putting him into the net, he's helping engineer a great play. Here's Fink. Laying it off on the left side. He's got Danny Counts. Look how much open room Counts has with great vision. Instead of looking to shoot with Petroni right there, he sees Paul Crossley. And Crossley, who did not settle the ball down, shot it as it was coming right to him, and that was the key to the play.
And so for Crossley, it's the 9th goal of the year from the assist from Counts. The left-footed shot into the net. And the Baltimore Blast has taken a 2-0 lead on the Kansas City Comets. 4:50 to go in this first half. From Kemper Arena in Kansas City. Ben Papula, his first appearance tonight for Kansas City. And he is obstructed by Peter Barilich. Penalty, as Baltimore momentarily had a 3-on-2 fast break coming the other way. 2:02 to left in the first half, second quarter. 2-0 the Blast over the Comets. As the USA Cable Network continues its consecutive Friday night coverage of the major indoor soccer league, culminating just about a month from now with the playoff series that both Al Trotwig and I will bring you from all around the U.S. Inside, it's Orhan. He turns inside, a goal!
A player that can put his back to the net and then spin and shoot is so dangerous. Orhan getting free, coming right in, pulling the ball outside, drawing the defender with him and creating his own space and firing it in with his left foot. Yilmaz Orhan getting a rise out of this crowd. sneaking around Nick Mangione of Baltimore.
And for Orhan, that'll be goal number 26 on the year, as quickly back in live action. Joey Fink put the ball across the top of the key and was unsuccessful. Here's Petrovic against Callahan. Callahan with the steal. Then Crosley goes down, but Petrovic retains possession for Kansas City. And here's the goal scorer himself, Yilmaz Orhan. He goes by McAvan. As Crosley tries to make the steal, McAvan finally successfully does. Now Rose up to Petrovic again. Petrovic one-on-one with Crosley. Got Savage on the far side to Savage. Back to Petrovic. To Savage. Here comes Dolinski around the backside. And the shot, deflection off a Baltimore player, will have a corner kick. Or a kick-in. It will be a kick-in.
Unfortunate for Kansas City, John Dolinski was wide open on the right side. Savage just couldn't find him out of his right eye and didn't get a pass to him. And now we've got a timeout, Kansas City. His legs, and of course, just about in any sport, once you cross your legs, you're finished.
And by getting that defender across his legs, through the goalkeeper, Van Aaron, to the near post. And Orhan neatly put away goal number 26 for himself on the year. Orhan, as many of these Kansas City players, spending some time in Buffalo in his career, as well as St. Louis.
Now you'll see that sign in the back, High Queen. Queen is a lady who is supposedly the #1 fan of Kansas City, and she is watching in Aspen, Colorado. So we say hello to her. Boy, what a tough life, huh? Aspen, Colorado.
And hello to Peter DeMarco and all the Baltimore Blast fans who are watching the game tonight, as we are in all 50 states and Puerto Rico on the USA Network. Deflection in the corner. Counts finally makes the clearance. And Joey Fink with the steal. 30 seconds to go in the first half. Inside, across the front. Right off the top of the crossbar. And the shot by Dolinski. A little bit high as Petrovic had the distance, had it measured, and missed the shot by just about 6 inches high. And now Keith Van Aaron with a very tentative play back at the count, trying to let the clock wear down. 16 seconds to go. And Baltimore appears as if it will not try to explode for another goal. 5 seconds left. And the clock stops. Free kick given to Kansas City. They make the clearance. Philo with the drastic shot there. A few seconds. Well, that's it here from the Kemper Arena in Kansas City. That's the end of the first half with the score. The Baltimore Blast 2, the Kansas City Comets 1. And we'll be back with our halftime activities in just a moment. Don't go.
Halftime at the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, where the score is the Baltimore Blast 2 and the Comets 1. We'd like to take a few minutes now to cover some of the happenings in the MISL. The MISL star selection this week is rookie forward Jermaine Iglesias of the Buffalo Stallions. Last Friday night on a game seen here on USA, Iglesias scored a 3-goal hat trick in a 6-2 win over the Western Division leading St. Louis Steamers. It was the second time this season the Stallions overran the Steamers, and Jermaine's first half outburst helped seal this one, leading his team to a 5-1 margin after 2 quarters of play. Then on Sunday, Iglesias scored 2 goals and an assist in a 7-6 Buffalo win over Philadelphia. Iglesias is the 4th leading scorer in the MISL and is a strong contender for Rookie of the Year in the league. Jermaine Iglesias of the Buffalo Stallions, the MISL star selection of the week. And not too bad for a player that was found in a semi-pro league playing on dirt and pebble fields in New York City.
Now we see some great skill by a lot of these youth players, and a few years ago a new player in the league was a player we've talked about some tonight, Pat Erkely, that we happened to watch on the USA Network a few years ago score one of the greatest goals ever in playoff situation. The ball bouncing outside,
Now, this is the championship game, the very first in the MISL. Bronco Segota with 3 opportunities. That was his second. Here's the third. Segota no longer in the league. A frantic play. Now watch this. It'll come out to the midfield line. Ercole, number 15 of New York.
Boom. Tremendous over-the-head kick as he wheeled, leaning back. One of the most difficult things to do in soccer is keeping the ball low when you're facing the goal, let alone try to keep the ball low when you're back to it. And that's why Pat Ercole was recruited so highly by Baltimore coach Kenny Cooper, and why Ken Cooper was so glad to have the 2-time All-Star and also the MVP of the All-Star game 2 years ago on his team this year, and now we hope you're enjoying watching him tonight as well.
Yeah, we just thought you'd like to see that little MISL flashback. The Arrows won that game in the first championship and went on to win the next 2. Let's take a look at the standings in the MISL as we sit right now with only about 10 or 11 games remaining for most teams. You see the Arrows 3 games in front of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh right now would play Baltimore in the playoffs. With Buffalo, though, the hottest team in the league, winning 12 of their last 16. Baltimore must be careful, having lost 6 of their last 9. Meanwhile, New Jersey, Cleveland, and Philadelphia are trying to catch up with Buffalo, but it doesn't look too promising for them. In the Western Division, the St. Louis Steamers just are rolling right along, getting a little bit of pressure from the Wichita Wings, 5.5 games behind them. Memphis comfortably in 3rd spot, and the 4th and final playoff spot is held by Denver. Meanwhile, Kansas City and Phoenix are hoping that Denver suffers some sort of collapse so that they can sneak into the 4th and final playoff spot.
And as we take a look at the top scorer leaders in the Major Indoor Soccer League, no surprises with the top 3. They've been there all year long, Steve Jungle, Terlecki, and Stankovic. But slowly but surely, the player you just saw a highlight on, Jermaine Iglesias, has now moved into the 4th place position with good balanced scoring, 39 goals, 24 assists, 63 points. Right after that 5th position, Joey Fink of Baltimore is in 6th place. And tonight, if he gets a point, he will become the 3rd all-time leading scorer in the Major Indoor Soccer League. The goalkeeping leaders, Ilyievsky of St. Louis, Sobieski, Keith Van Aaron, the player we've watched tonight, has only allowed 1 goal this half. He's on almost a record pace, 4.07 goals against. And then Antoine and Dowler, 2 of the players in the Western Division goalkeepers that have played so well consistently throughout the year.
We've got 3 other games tonight in the Major Indoor Soccer League. An important game for New Jersey if they have any hopes of catching Buffalo, but it's not in their favor right now. 3rd quarter, the Buffalo Stallions 3 and the New Jersey Rockets 1. Remember the game in the Checker Dome and the Arrows edge St. Louis? Well, tonight's the rematch at the Nassau Coliseum in New York. Halftime. The Steamers and the Arrows are tied at 1. Jungle playing in his 113th consecutive game. In the 2nd quarter, the Memphis Americans leading the Wichita Wings 2-1. Upcoming on our halftime activities, we'll see some highlights of the first half. There were 3 goals scored, and we'll talk about who knows what. We'll surprise you, that's for sure. We'll be back with more halftime activities, including first. Al Troutwig, Kyle Rowe Jr. back here at the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. You're looking at the result of a lot of hard work by parents here in Kansas City. All these kids playing a little bit of a game. Our halftime score is the Baltimore Blast 2 and the Kansas City Comets 1. The scoring obviously falling in favor of Baltimore, and they started things off 8 seconds into the game, Kyle.
As we take a look at Victor Petroni, no doubt not even warmed up. He doesn't even have a chance to make his first save. He never touches the ball until Baltimore has a 1-goal lead, as Stankovic had just previously to that shot played a 1-2 inside with Berlich, and here's goal number 2 as the ball goes inside from Fink to Danny Counts. Counts will wait till the defender comes inside the penalty box clearly, and he'll also hold the goalkeeper and then make the pass to the far side to Crosley, who'll left foot it high so that the player could not kick it, but if he had to do anything, try to hand the ball. And finally, Orhan takes on 3 players and importantly beats the last defender, who pulls the goalkeeper to the near post. And with his teammate inside, Rose, who was distracting off a defender. The stats in terms of shots and saves, first half, the Kansas City Comets out shooting the Baltimore Blast 15-12 and saves. Petroni forces to make 9, Van Aaron 8. And of course, we'll also like to remind you that next week we'll be back at the Yard in Buffalo for our next edition of Friday Night MISL Soccer. The Pittsburgh Spirit, with high-scoring Stan Terlecki, will be on hand for the match against the Buffalo Stallions. It's getting close to playoff time, as Al has told you, and the Spirit are in a battle for position in the East with both Baltimore. And now the Stallions are making their move. Should be a high-scoring game, so be sure not to miss it. Al Trautwig and yours truly, Kyle Rowe Jr., will be bringing it to you Friday Night MISL Soccer next week. The Pittsburgh Spirit and the Buffalo Stallions. Game time will be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So it's been a frustrating first half for the Kansas City Comets, out shooting the Baltimore Blast, but actually their shot selection was not as good as head coach Pat McBride might have expected. And Baltimore trying to shake out of their 6 out of 9 losing slump. Well, they don't exactly look like the smoothest team in the MISL. Second half is coming up here on the USA Cable Network, and we'll be back for the start of it right after these messages. You're watching Friday Night MISL Soccer on the USA Cable Network. 13,000 people settled in their seats, hoping the Kansas City Comets can get one back. Their record a disappointing 10-24, but there's only 3 games out of that final playoff spot in the Western Division of the Major Indoor Soccer League. 1:20 left to go in the third quarter. 2-1, Baltimore leading. Al Troutwig along with Kyle Roach Jr., Friday Night MISL Soccer. Right now a 1-goal battle. And I'll have to say, if it was a more important game for one team over another, it's a more important game for Kansas City.
It really is. They do, as you say, only have 10 games left. 3 games behind. They're going to have to be a streaky team as the ball caroms down into the corner. 3 games behind. But it's also important for this Baltimore team to try to maintain the position where they can play Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs. They certainly do not want to end up in 4th place in the Eastern Division and have to face those New York Heralds in round 1.
3-line violations called against Baltimore. Kansas City restarts play. That means roll the music. Live Griffith. Ahead for Salvamini. Breaking free. The drive off the glass. Out for Griffith with Handlin. Griffith, after having trouble, finally settles it down. Sliding tackle from a guy who just came back from a bad knee injury. Here's Griffiths again. Down low, bad pass. The Sousa saves it. Shot by Savage, loose in front, and Van Aaron pounces on the loose ball. And Van Aaron comes up screaming, saying, let's go, get out of here. Here's a break for Kansas City. Savage with Salvamini in front. Saved by Van Aaron. And the buzzer's down to end the third quarter play. But what a flurry to end it out. We're 3/4 of the way through this one. And at the end of the third quarter, it's the Baltimore Blast 2 and the Kansas City Comets 1. You're watching Friday Night MISL Soccer on the USA Cable Network. MISL Magazine is the official magazine of the Major Indoor Soccer League. Each issue contains feature stories on the team, close-ups on players, and some of the finest sports photography around, including our famous caption contest. For each of 6 issues, send $2.25, postage included, to MISL Magazine, 1 Bala Plaza, Suite 415, Bala Kinwood, Pennsylvania, 19004. MISL Magazine. After the third quarter, the shots advantage for Kansas City, but they just would rather have a goal. 29-17. Saves for Victor Petroni, 13 for Kansas City. Keith Van Aaron for Baltimore has made 15 saves. So what that tells me is that Baltimore's taken fewer shots, but they have been better shots than Kansas City has taken.
You can read the stats like that. That's great.
It's amazing what you can just pick out of those numbers. Baltimore in white, Kansas City in blue. And Kansas City's fans are quite blue right now. Their Comets trail 2-1.
Wonderful pass to Nagy. He scores! What a great pass by Peter Berlich from midfield as he got over the first red line, and with that eliminated the 3-line pass.
Louis Nagy, who has not seen many turns on the field so far, and for the second time in this game, whether it's a lack of Kansas City's concentration or what, Baltimore has scored a goal with only seconds into the quarter.
But this one took twice as long as Louis Nagy gets goal number 16 on the year. He did a wonderful job there of toe-poking the half volley as the ball had just hit the ground. He made contact with it again. There you see he'll let it hit the ground, hits it with his toe to keep it low, and beats Petroni. So 16 seconds in this time. It's the Blast 3 and the Comets 1.
And the assist wizard, Peter Berlich, gets the second assist. And you know what that tells me? Again, I'm getting a vision.
A vision.
I think this is one of Kenny Cooper's strategic moves that they practice. It just seems too much of a coincidence
the strategic move was in buying Peter Barelich, getting him signed to a contract, or signing him on his free agent contract.
Now, I'm serious. You send a striker running up, get Barelich off the kickoff and a quick pass, and no one can pass like he can. No. Catch the other team off guard and score, hopefully. Well, it's worked twice for Baltimore in the game so far. They now lead 3-1. They're in second place. Stan Terlecki and company are looking to get back on the winning track. It all happens next week on Friday night MISL Soccer. The Pittsburgh Spirit and the Buffalo Stallions from a great building to watch indoor soccer. They on in Buffalo, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific here on USA.
And talking about records on television, as we take a look at the profile of Tim Lewicki, the general manager here at Kansas City, we'll see if Jermaine Iglesias can continue his streak of goals on Friday night MISL.
And you know what Timmy's thinking? He's thinking, we've got a great crowd tonight, but how long will they keep coming out, at least in these numbers, as we keep losing?
And Val D'Souza has now gone in as goalkeeper for the Kansas City Comets, as we told you to expect that. Pat McBride with that timeout, 4:06 to go, trying to have a chance to catch up with 2 goals. This tactic has been used very well. They've yet to win a game, but D'Souza, with him in goal, they've scored 4 or 5 late-minute goals in the last few weeks.
He took that shot like a goalkeeper, too. D'Souza dropping back. It's going to be his responsibility to tend the net. 4:05 left to go. Pat McBride and Kenny Cooper both with a little bit of different strategy tonight. We've seen some interesting things. Yubo Petrovic falling down, but getting the pass back to Val D'Souza. And now D'Souza moves upfield. And here's what Kansas City needs, the extra attacker. Petrovic. Zoran Savic. Out for Yubo Petrovic. 3:38. Zielinski. Back for D'Souza.
And this is an interesting tactic by Baltimore as they're leaving Barelich out on the last man. That being D'Souza, not many teams will do that. They're, in essence, allowing them to have a power play inside or a man advantage situation inside.
And as far as ball handling goes, Barelich can take the ball away from D'Souza with his eyes closed. Fink, and if he does take the ball away from him, he's going to be all alone. D'Souza heads it back. Dangerous situation right now for Kansas City. Here's D'Souza. Playing against his team of last year. Zielinski, Petrovic, under 3 minutes. Kansas City with the ball, the extra attacker, and 2 goals are needed to tie. Petrovic off the boards, but no one's in the slot. Shot just missed by John Zielinski. That rebound went all the way out to the red line.
Good shot by Zielinski. He hit the far post, or just wide of the post. Difficult volley shot. He gets it inside.
Zielinski sent it in front, cleared by Van Aaron. Out for Zielinski again. Hammers it, loose in front. No one there. It's cleared by Count. Straight for Savic. His shot is wide. Joey Fink of Baltimore lofts it over the head of Zielinski. Nice move to break out of his own zone. Fink in hot pursuit of the ball. Savic doesn't see him. Fink trying to take it away. D'Souza's there. Glenn Salvamini lays it off for Val D'Souza. 2:08. 2:07 left to go. 3-1 Baltimore. 14,020 looking on. Orhan loose in front, and he kicks Van Aaron after he made the save. Timeout is called.
Well, that'll put a stop to the music and to the attack of Kansas City.
Van Aaron had made the save, and it's a perfect example of why all the goalkeepers in this league are the first ones to admit you're just got to be a crazy person to play the position of goalkeeper in this game. And Kenny Cooper is applauding, but he's got to be pretty nervous.
Here it is again, a good pass to the far post as it beat the Baltimore defender. Orhan, I don't believe, and the ball just hit him. He didn't take a shot. It's covered very quickly by Van Aaron. But Orhan, with the intensity of the crowd and with 1 minute and 57 seconds to go, kicks him right in the head. And Van Aaron, I'm sure, will have his pupils checked and whatever neurological signs that Randy G, the trainer of Baltimore, will think would be necessary to check. As you now look at Klaus Kleinstauber also checking.
You know what amazes me? His hair is still in place.
It always is in place.
He's looking no worse for wear. Klaus Kleinstauber holding up number of fingers, saying, how many do you see? And I assume that Keith Van Aaron answered 5. He throws the ball out for Danny Counts. That, by the way, was the right answer. 1:45 left to go. Counts negotiating his way around. Whistle stopping play. It came out of the lips of the alternate referee, Anatol Popovich. There's a look at Danny Counts. 4-year MISL veteran.
1:45 to go. Savage.
Off the glass, in front for Salvamini. Orhan fires. Scooped up and a nice save by Van Aaron. That was a tricky save because it took a short hop, and Van Aaron took another shot.
And Papula this time, as Van Aaron is telling his teammates, I'm okay, protect me, but don't do anything foolish.
Dangerous play.
Got 5 seconds.
Van Aaron throws it high, just short of the scoreboard. Out for Orhan. 1:26 left to go. Still plenty of time to make this game interesting. 3-1 Baltimore the lead. Kansas City's had the ball 90% of the time in the fourth quarter. They've just been unable to score. D'Souza.
Right now they're having difficulty penetrating this stifling defense of Baltimore. Barelich against D'Souza one-on-one.
D'Souza finding Orhan. Kansas City is trying to get inside this Baltimore defense, and they have found the perfect mesh of tight marking and then dropping off to clog the middle. And here's a break, and we're going to get to see what Val D'Souza looks like in the net. Barelich weaving his way inside. The shot saved by Val D'Souza.
D'Souza, having played up to this point 25 minutes in goal, has only allowed 1 goal, and in fact has the best goals against average of the Kansas City goalkeepers.
Here's Ljubo Petrovic. Only 30 seconds left in the game. Orhan. High off the glass for Zoran Savic. For Ljubo Petrovic, and the 3 former Buffalo Stallions working around the inside. Savic. Out for Petrovic. 14, 13, 12, and it looks as though Kansas City will have a record of 10 and 25, and Baltimore will have a record of 22 and 12. Van Aaron is out, 2 seconds, right through the crease. Buzzer sounds, and the game is over. Well, Kansas City finding out tonight that it's not a matter of how long you've got the ball, but how many good shots can you take. Kenny Cooper breathes a sigh of relief. His team is back on the winning track. End of the game, the final score, the Baltimore Blast 3 and the Kansas City Comets 1. We'll be back with some final words on the USA Cable Network in just a moment.